So today we got a question from Femi, whose friend is telling him that jiu-jitsu is useless for street fight situations. I'm sure that some of you guys are watching this and you're going to get on there and be like, yeah, it's so stupid. You never do jiu-jitsu for a street fight situation. The comments will be fun. But he says that his friend recently, because he was thinking about doing jiu-jitsu, and his friend said, no, man, you don't want to do jiu-jitsu. It's not realistic. All that stuff goes right out the window. It's fake. And Femi was like, I think it's conducive to a street fight situation. It's kind of what they talk about. And his friend said, no way. Boxing is realistic. Don't do jiu-jitsu. It's a waste of time. And so Femi's wondering what my thoughts are on it. So, brother, thank you for the question. And before I put my phone down, let's talk about this little thing here. Everybody's got this phone, and on the back of it's got a little camera right there. And you know what people do with their cameras? They go out to fights when someone, or whenever they see someone fight, they pull that sucker out and they scream "World Star" and they start videotaping the fight, right? And it's interesting because you can go online and you can put in kickboxer in a street fight, you can put in jiu-jitsu guy, judo guy, whatever the combat sport is. Okay, and you can put it in there and then put it in street fight, and you'll find some clips. And there are exceptions to the rule, but the rule generally is if they have combat sport experience, they beat the piss out of the other person. If it's a wrestler, the wrestler dumps them over their head, they slam them down, and that's it. Or if it's a judoka, there's a beautiful one of the judoka, the guy grabs him and he like whop, slams him with a sotogari, the guy lands and the guy's just like laying down like moaning. By the way, guys, if you've seen a judo match and you've seen where they land flat on their back, and that's the end of the fight. The reason why that is because if you slam someone on a hard surface, that's it. They don't get back up. There's been videos of jiu-jitsu guys taking people's backs, choking them. There's boxers who, there was a video of a boxer, I think it was like in Eastern Europe somewhere where the guy's walking, someone does something to his girlfriend, he pop, hits two guys, and they walk off. So all these combat sports are effective. So, you know, first off, why are we trying to like split hairs and be like, well, this is the best one, whatever. We'll talk about the techniques in a second, but let's talk about what they have in common and what's more important that they're giving you besides the techniques. Because techniques themselves are not what's truly effective in my book, in my experience and what I believe. Because techniques, there's a lot of techniques that are in boxing, a lot of techniques that are in jiu-jitsu, that are in other martial arts that aren't nearly as effective as these because of their training environments that they're in, right? I'll give you an example. Years ago, like early internet days, right? Early internet days where, you know, there's some grainy video that you could watch. There was a video online where these two kids are at look like a basketball court, and this one guy, he has his pants hanging down, he's wearing big baggy clothes, and you can tell he's kind of being the aggressor. And then this other kid says, you know, basically accepts the fight. He takes his stuff, hands it to someone, and then he like goes, this is my best like impression of that. He gets into some sort of stance from some sort of martial art, right? And then the other guy starts kind of like thinking about, I don't know if I want to do this. And then they start fighting. And as soon as they make contact, the guy that was in the traditional martial arts stance stands up straight and he just starts swinging like this, like totally ugly, just swinging. And to me, when I watch that, I can see, he's never done this live, right? He's probably done katas and he's done this stuff, but he's never actually had someone trying to hit him and it just went out the window. Whereas when you watch like a wrestler, like when someone tries to fight him, it's like boom, and he just like lifts the guy up and dumps him on his neck. When you watch a good boxer who's been in a fight, he just he fires off. And the reason is because one, the guys are always sparring all the time, right? They're always sparring, so they get used to being in stressful environments. They're used to being able to deal with that stressful environment, being able to operate and think in that stressful environment. If you've never been in a situation where a person is going at you 100%, you don't know how things are gonna work, and you have to become able to think in those situations. Because what that does is then if you find yourself in a stressful fight situation on the street, you become at least somewhat inoculated to it where you can think. Because in a street fight situation, everything goes out the window, bro. Everything goes out the window. Boxing, jiu-jitsu, everything goes out the window. And your job is to navigate through that situation with what you got as best you can. And being able to do this with your training, being able to deal with the stress, being able to think in that situation is what's most important. Okay, not so much just the techniques alone, but being able to think and operate in those situations. Now, take this another step further. Combat sports all have competitions wired in them. What's so effective, even if the competition itself is maybe not the most what's the word? Realistic, right? Like, you know, jiu-jitsu competitions, we're not gonna, if I'm in a jiu-jitsu competition, I might pull half guard and get up under someone. If I'm in a fight situation, I'm not pulling guard. If, you know, in boxing, for instance, if we clinch, the ref separates us. In a fight situation, if we clinch, I'm taking you down, you know? So the sports have different elements in them that wouldn't necessarily be realistic, but what happens is me and you are doing a sport where we get to fight each other without punches or with punches, right? We get to fight each other in this form of martial art that we're doing, and we get to go 100%. And nobody, like, I mean, dude, it's a rough thing if you've ever done a competition before in any sort of combat sport. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's boxing, wrestling, doesn't matter. Jiu-jitsu, it's a tough thing. And you are at such high intensity that then if you've ever, this is like my experience and several of my students over the years, where they go to a street fight situation and it's like laughable because the person they're going against doesn't have any skills and they're so comfortable from competing for so many years that it's like it just doesn't affect them as nearly as much as it probably should have or would have if they hadn't trained. So understand that what you're getting out of the combat sports, first off, is that stress inoculation. Now, moving into the techniques. The thing about it is that a lot of times when people watch jiu-jitsu, they see jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu. And when you watch jiu-jitsu versus jiu-jitsu, it's probably not the most realistic thing to watch for a fight. It's just not going to be. It would be boring, dude. Like, it would be so boring to practice jiu-jitsu if I was just practicing self-defense every single day. It's fun to play the game. It's fun to play this game of chess where we try to choke each other. The beautiful thing is that the rudimentary jiu-jitsu that you're going to need for a fight, it's not too much, right? We're gonna work on our takedowns, we're gonna work on our clinch work, we're gonna get really, really tight, and we're gonna keep pressure, and we're gonna take care of business. And people can say what they want to, but the sport has been shown time and time again to be effective in both fighting situations on the street, in the ring, doesn't matter. So again, people can say what they want to, but the proof is in the pudding. I mean, again, they did this thing called the UFC 1, where they basically took all these old martial artists. It was a big, you know, it was a big marketing ploy from the Gracies. They did a beautiful job. I'm thankful for it because I'm here because of it. But they did this thing where they took all these martial artists and let's see who wins. And Jiu-Jitsu won. Granted, they didn't get like, you know, the best bruiser of a wrestler they could find. They still had some tough guys in there and they won. You know, they beat all those dudes. And so they did that back in the day. They already did it. So we don't have to prove that. What I would say, though, is this. If you're getting into jiu-jitsu explicitly for the purpose of self-defense, I think you should also do boxing. My thoughts. Because, you know, I know that years ago when I had my very first fight and I was getting ready for it and I got punched for the first time, like by a boxer, I remember I immediately just grabbed him and took him down because I was like, oh my God, that, like, I can't take punches like that over and over again. And there is an ability to relax and roll with the punches, as they say. And so after that, I got into boxing for 8 years and pretty consistently, like at least 3 days a week, even when I wasn't like fighting, because I kind of enjoyed the sport and the craft of boxing itself. And so what I would say is, man, is that if you're getting into jiu-jitsu for fighting, also do a little bit of boxing. I tell that to anybody. If you're doing jiu-jitsu for self-defense, you should do a little striking too. And you should know what it's like to get punched a little bit. You should know what that feels like, because otherwise you're just kind of, you're playing with yourself. You're just joking yourself because you don't know what it's like. It's like doing jiu-jitsu and not actually rolling. You don't know what's going to happen. Like you don't know what it's like to actually use it against someone full speed. If you're like, if you're practicing some weird punch block series or something and no one's actually trying to punch you for real, you don't know what that's going to be like. And so it's very important that if you're going to do this stuff for self-defense, you should definitely invest in some striking as well. My opinion. Again, take this with a grain of salt. So anyway, I've rambled enough. This video is long, and I'm sure it's probably too long for some of you guys, but there's a lot to throw in there. So again, Femi, jiu-jitsu and all combat sports, boxing included, are going to help inoculate you to stress, get you comfortable in those situations. And then when it comes to the techniques themselves, the groundwork, the clinch work, the takedowns, all that stuff, it's very effective, man. It's been proven time and time again to be effective. Boxing's really effective too. And if you're doing it for self-defense, why say do one or the other? Why not just do both? So, Femi, hope that helps, brother. Thank you for the question.